Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to see you all. Welcome to a new season of Primetime at the BU Library. Primetime is a collaborative project between the Friends of the BU Library, faculty development, and many other offices on campus, which celebrates learning beyond the classroom through the experiences and accomplishments of Bethel's faculty, students, and staff. Past Primetime presentations, including past seasons, are available in the BU Digital Library, which can be found on the library's homepage. Thursday, October 16th, we'll have Leah Fulton, Associate Dean of Intercultural Programs and Services, and Ruben Rivera, Interim Chief Diversity Officer and Associate Professor of History. They will present a community information session about the new Act 6 scholarship program and what it will mean for our campus and what to expect in the coming months. Today we welcome Gehrz and Sam Mulberry as they show us their creative approach in redesigning HIS290 in a talk about teaching presentation entitled Past and Presence, Rethinking the Intro course. Let's welcome them this morning.
This will mostly be Gehrz speaking. Can you hear me? Business people in the back. So we're going to talk about, it's actually a course that hasn't still yet been taught. It's a course that exists solely in our imaginations and kind of on YouTube, but it'll be coming in spring of 2015. And we'll start disruptively by showing you something without explaining it, because that might be a good teaching technique. And then we'll explain later what this is and why I'm in a car.
Welcome to Past and Presence. This is our last episode of the season, so to speak. And as you can kind of tell from my surroundings, this is our special episode. This is our road trip episode. Ever since we came up with the idea of kind of using past and presence and making location a really important part of the webisode series, we thought that we should have something that kind of symbolized the notion of history as a journey. We talked about the past as a foreign country, which implies travel and movement. And what better way to underscore that before we go for the semester than to actually go to a place and maybe to shoot a few clips along the way. So we're on our way on I-35 North, headed to the city of Duluth on the shores of Lake Superior. We'll stop a couple of places along the way and then show you a couple of sites in Duluth once we get there, before we wrap up the semester in this first season of Past and Presence.
Two things to point out about that. That was actually the first thing we did. I'm pretty sure it's the best thing. I did. Sam did that. There we go. Second, I fought really hard for the executive producer credits. Sam did not want that. I demanded that. So we'll talk about the webisode, Past and Presence, which gives us the title for this talk today. It's maybe the most innovative part of what we're doing, but not the only thing we're doing. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of background of where this is all coming from. Kind of walk you through the course very briefly, and then show you a couple more clips that we've already produced over the summer. So I think the way to think about this is, forget that. Is that this is coming out of the confluence of two different conversations. One of which we've actually done here in the library quite often. The other has been internal to our department. So the two conversations are this. First of all, how does the digital revolution impact pedagogy? And second, what is the nature of a good history major? How do you set up a good curriculum? So I'll come to that in a second. Pedagogy part, you've heard Sam and I separately and together talk a few times about what do we do with some of the new technologies, new techniques that are available to us in the digital age. And I think you've heard us enough to know that we're interested in some of this, we're leery of some of this, but I think our takeaway usually is how can online teaching enrich face-to-face teaching? Are there ways those two can actually intersect and reinforce each other? Are there things you can do online you can't do face-to-face, and yet still build the kind of community that we treasure in face-to-face? And especially how can some of these technological innovations help generate innovation in more traditional pedagogical settings, and that'll show up today. The second conversation is one that, unless you're part of the department, you would know or maybe care about, which is we thought for a long time of how to have a good history major. It's a pretty flexible major. We've always valued having a lot of choice, relatively small size. We have a lot of double majors. We try not to have too many required courses. So for most of my time at Bethel, there's only been the one required course, the capstone course in your seminar. And past that, we have categories. So most of them were regional distribution categories, some American, some global, some European. We also had an introductory category. So a set of, I think, about 6 200-level courses on American, Asian, African, Middle Eastern, and modern history. And our sense increasingly was that the category was not doing the job we needed to. It was supposed to provide the tools for our majors that they could do well in our 300-level courses in research and writing, identifying sources, reading, all those things. The problem is, A, they're all gen ed courses. They have to do lots of other things besides that. They've got lots of non-history majors, and understandably those students weren't especially interested in historical methodology or philosophy. And actually, over time, a lot of them were taught by non-historians. And so over my time here, I felt increasing, kind of bubbling up that we needed some kind of intro course, which a lot of your departments already have. Something that's a kind of pipeline, a gateway, a place to equip students with tools, but also to introduce them to the department very early on. Another problem I think we had as a department is most of our students never really met us apart from CWC or humanities until their second year at Bethel. And so another conversation we've been having is how do you build departmental culture? I mean, it felt like it become this kind of commuter department. People came in like halfway through their Bethel time, took their classes, left. And so for a lot of reasons, we thought, how do we build a deeper sense of community? So what we finally landed on is that we would continue basically to have this kind of distribution model. We would kind of reallocate courses, but largely kept them the same. But we decided we would add an intro course. And so that's History 290, Introduction to History. So this is going to be a required course taught every spring for history majors and history minors. So we'll probably have about 12 to 15 based on the people who came in this year, if they all take it in their first year. So this is something I'll be teaching. It's doing a few different things. Introducing some of the methods. So there will be a lot of emphasis on, we'll actually spend 2 nights in here. We'll talk about research methods. We'll talk about sources, doing bibliography, citation, things like that. We'll talk about collaboration. We'll talk about writing, speaking. All the kind of skills that run through what we're doing. And actually, one thing that occurred to Sam and me this summer as we did a workshop with Joel Frederickson is that it's actually an ideal time to kind of reconfigure our program assessment and actually set a baseline in the intro course that we can then use to compare the students go forward. We wanted to think about the philosophy of history, not just that this is a set of skills or a set of knowledge, but it's a particular way of thinking about humanity and creation and God's relationship to those things. It's a way of thinking about faith learning integration. And also, it's a vocation. What does it mean to be called to study the past? And that might be as a professional historian or social studies teacher, or museum worker, or archivist. It could be lots of other things too. And so vocation should be a theme that runs through what we're doing. And then with that, careers. So as we had talked about the nature of the intro course, one problem that I know a lot of your departments wrestle with is who gets to / has to teach the intro course. And I offered to do it. I'm interested. I wanted to kind of cycle off senior seminar, and it was a good time to do that. But we agreed it would be really nice if the whole department could teach the course in some way, for introducing people to the community and give them a broader sense of kind of discussions we have outside of the classroom and in the classroom to introduce different genres, fields of history. And so we thought, how do we do that? So what we wound up with was a hybrid model. There will be a face-to-face component, a 2-hour Monday evening seminar. Initially, that was set so that we could overlap with our own senior seminar, which isn't going to work this year, but next year that will work. So we can actually put the seniors and the first-year students together at a few different points, which hopefully will produce some good conversations. So it'll be activity-based, it'll be largely discussion-oriented. One of our textbooks is John Peta's Why Study History. John is the chair of the department at Messiah College and wrote this book very conveniently. Last year it's an introduction to history, but especially for students at Christian colleges. The whole chapters in faith learning integration, providential history, historians in the church. So we'll supplement with 1 or 2 other books, but that'll be our main textbook. But then we thought, well, could we do an online piece? And what we wound up with was 2 pieces. One will be a course blog, kind of akin to what I did in my human rights class this past spring. one in which students are both writing and commenting, reading. It's a way to maybe sustain conversation during the week apart from the Monday evening seminar. And then the thing we'll focus most on is we decided this would be an ideal time to do a departmental TV show, or I guess webisodes here is the language we should use. So you just saw the first couple of minutes from what's going to be the last episode. So the road trip episode, we thought we'd save as a special treat. But Sam and I spent a lot of the summer filming material for this thing that still has not happened. And so we're about probably 65% of the way done. But each one will kind of have a cold open, it'll have the title sequence, and it'll have a few different pieces. And I wanted to show you examples of some of those pieces. So where we started was, how do you get the department to teach a course like this? And so the model we came up with is at the end of each Monday evening seminar, we'll spend like 15 or 20 minutes previewing whatever the topic will be for next Monday night. So it could be attached to a reading in John's book or something online. But for example, a topic we'll talk about is what's the nature of vocation, calling, careers for history majors. But then during the week, they'll have a chance to watch 3 of our faculty who talk about that same topic. And so each of these webisodes is going to feature a discussion moderated by me, but featuring 2 other faculty, and actually one will have a couple of our TAs do, and introduce them to some students as well. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is a discussion, it'll be 2 parts. This is the first part of the discussion on a discussion featuring Anne-Marie Koistra, who teaches American history, and Amy Poppinga, who does Islamic studies and environmental history. They're talking about career and calling. So just as one example of what this might look like.
So Amy and Anne-Marie, most of the students taking this class are probably in their first year, their second semester of college life. At this point, how much should they be thinking about things like career or vocation? What would be maybe some appropriate first steps as they look beyond even college life?
I will jump in on this one because I have very strong feelings about vocation and career. I think students should be thinking about their vocation, but I think vocation is different from career, and I know that's something we might talk about a little bit more later, but you know, we are at a Christian institution, and not everybody who comes here is Christian. But so in the sort of Christian setting, vocation is a calling, and for me, that's what God is calling you to do. And I think a liberal arts Christian education is the best place to explore what it is that God is calling you to do, because you actually have the opportunity to take a lot of different kinds of courses, including those in science. You came here thinking you were going to be a history major, and it turns out you love biology because you had to take this course. Is that God speaking to you? Is that God asking you to think about maybe your gift is here, maybe there's a calling there? So I think they should be thinking about their calling always, but I don't think they should be worried about what am I going to do to make a living after college, because I think that will come later.
And I think that is, I mean, I really like what you said, because I think that it's the idea of not answering the question of what am I supposed to do, but who am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
Which is something that we talk about a lot here at Bethel, I think. And so something that I feel like that we have worked on as a department in the last few years, and that I feel like we are getting better and better at it, is helping students be equipped to, again, not think specifically about what are you going to do, but rather who are you, what skills do you have, and how do we create sort of a seamlessness for you between hard skills and who you are. And that who you are contributes to those hard skills, and those hard skills help develop who you are as a person. So I think that that's something that's particularly important to think about, because I think that the more consciously you are thinking about it, then the better you're going to be at articulating that, whether it's to family and friends who say, what are you doing with a history major, or whether it is when you're looking at internships or future employers, that we're just as interested in who you are becoming, and it's directly tied, it's not independent from the actual skills that you're obtaining.
Well, let's talk about calling. We can come back to career maybe more specifically later on. Yeah, I love what you're saying. I also know it's hard to hear calling.
Yeah.
Right? And one thing I talked with first year student, you're surrounded by voices, right?
Yes.
And not all of those are voices you want to be listening to.
No.
And some that you shouldn't be listening to might be parents. I mean, really young people in their life.
Yeah.
It might be pastors. It might be me, right?
Right.
I might not actually know you.
Right.
You might not know you.
Right.
So I mean, either maybe from your own personal experience, I don't know if you feel like you've got a kind of a call or moments of call, or like, what advice do you have for students of how do you filter out the other voices and listen for the one that actually is doing the calling in their life?
I would say, one thing that I've seen from students is they are reluctant to try lots of different kinds of things because they're concerned about failing. To me, failing gives you indications about what maybe you ought not to do, or how badly do you want it. Is that then an indication? Kevin Craig, a former history professor here, once told me that, God sometimes calls you to what you love. And sometimes experiencing something and having great passion for it is an indication that you need to pursue that. And then maybe the door gets closed later on, but at least you have been faithful in pursuing it and responding to that. I think it also helps you be more creative about what you think about doing and applying for. And so as you're looking for classes and internships, okay, that doesn't seem to fit maybe with your history major, but is there a way in which working for the Twins organization, because you have such a love for this, does actually tie back into it in some way?
Yeah. Stop there. It was just a really rich conversation. It's moving really to have this. And it'd be really difficult to do on a Monday night. I can't ask my colleagues to come 5 times to get up Monday nights. I'm the one who's got that in my mode. This is the way to bring those people into the classroom. And we might not have Amy until their 3rd year when they take module release. They might not have Anne-Marie until they take senior seminar their last year. But this way, to some extent, they will at least begin to know them and hear these. And honestly, this was such a good conversation. I wanted it earlier in the semester. I kind of planned this as the exit, but maybe it's something I should hear earlier on. So that was the initial plan. And then past that, what's been cool is always working with Sam is you start thinking, okay, we're trying this, but now there's a new idea we can try. And so partly what we had to do is think about the format of the TV show. We didn't want to just kind of paste together what I'm doing here, clip, clip, clip. We had to think about what's going to link all of these things. And so we had the notion that I would be hosting it somehow. We weren't going to build a set or anything. We could have done like a talk show. That would be very cool, actually. Next time. Instead we thought, well, maybe we should have me film some kind of interstitial links. Really short, 60 to 90-second things. And maybe they wouldn't even connect it, but just be something to kind of break them up and make it feel a little bit more professional. And then we thought, well, hey, why don't we just go out into the Twin Cities? So here it's been official that Sam and I also teach a travel course. And I think we've both been just deeply struck by the power of teaching something in a particular place. So teaching World War I on the battlefields in Belgium and northern France turns out to be a lot more powerful than teaching it in AC 332. Who knew? So I think we both been wrestling with the notion of how do we take that then back to Bethlehem, knowing that that's a unique experience, we can't do it, it's expensive. Could we use the Twin Cities as our classroom in some respect? And so we started to think through this notion of the importance of location and place, and that's where past and presence comes from in some ways. So how do we almost teach our students from the Twin Cities as our classroom? Or even beyond the Twin Cities. So you saw at the beginning of the road clip episode, that was me. I was not actually talking as I passed cars. That's Sam's video editing manager showing that. But along the way, we stopped at a few places. Sometimes it would just be me. So I went to Duluth, shot a couple of stand-ups in front of a monument and by the harbor. But on the way, we actually passed the Minnesota Historical Society site by Pine City called Northwest Company for a Trading Post. And so we sent them an email asking, hey, do you mind if we film 5 minutes here? And they said, yes.
I agree with that 100%.
Here is made our first stop on our road trip episode of Past and Presents. We're just outside Pine City, Minnesota. This is a little over an hour north of the Twin Cities off the interstate. And we're into the woods here up the Snake River at the Northwest Company Fur Trade Post. This is one of 26 sites around the state administered by the Minnesota Historical Society. So it's not just the History Center in Fort Snelling, it's sites around the state. And so this is a post that's a kind of living history site set in the year 1804. So over 50 years before Minnesota became a state, when this is still a territory, this is still the frontier. This is a site where European traders, British and French, and Native Americans, the Ojibwe in particular, met to exchange goods, to exchange furs. And so we're standing here overlooking the post itself, a kind of wooden fort structure they've reconstructed. And then there's also an Ojibwe encampment just a little way down the trail.
Just wanted to show you this, partly to give you a sense of how the classroom can expand beyond Bethel, beyond the Twin Cities, into the state of Minnesota. We've had students do papers, for example, from Fort Ripley, gone up and done military history. So as you continue to think about internships or research opportunities, do cast your gaze a little bit beyond the Twin Cities itself. Okay, we'll keep going on our road trip. We'll stop in Hinckley next. But first, when we pick up our faculty conversation for this week. It's really great music. So we do have a few sites like that. We even went back to like Old Bethel. Almost got arrested because we got to ask permission, but everything turned out fine. It was actually really cool to go back to the place from where GW spent his satellite days. One thing I actually have looking at my notes here, I mean, I think this worked for us, partly because Sam and I have kind of tried versions of this. At one point, we actually did a history department podcast in like 2010, 2011 that was kind of like this without the videos. We kind of been practicing without knowing it all along, and we were building on those efforts. One of our favorite visits was the Minnesota History Center. It's one of the advantages of being a history professor here is we've got the best state historical society in the country, I think. And it's got these 26 sites, but the real crown jewel is the History Center, which is this beautiful building. And so it just happened just that Sam's brother Matt is a major gifts officer for this historical society and said, hey, you should come down, I'll take you around. We went like into the toys exhibit and talked, but he also took us behind the scenes, which is really cool. And so serendipity becomes an important theme. Once you're starting to just go out and capture things, you never know what you're going to get. And he took us downstairs, swiped the security card, and went into the preservation wing of the State Historical Society. We met someone who does textile preservation, so we thought we'd show you that. I mean, this is just on the fly. She had no idea we were coming, but. So we're back at the Minnesota History Center. We're down in the basement here with Anne Frisina. Anne, can you tell us a little bit about what the space is and what you do here?
Well, this is the Textile Conservation Lab for the History Center, and what we do here is we take care of the entire collection for the Minnesota Historical Society. Because it's so large and so varied, we have just an incredible variety of items that come in here. Because we're a historical society, many of our items arrive in less than pristine condition because we're collecting for the history, not for the actual artifact, 9 times out of 10. So sometimes things are brand new, like these pieces here, the lung pieces which have never been used and are in pristine condition, and then sometimes they arrive in just shambles and we're putting them back together again.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing here. What's this going to be for?
Well, this is for an upcoming exhibit called We Are Hmong. And it is going to be happening at the James J. Hill House. And it's happening in concert with another Hmong exhibit that's going to be at the History Center. And this part of the exhibit is going to be about different artists in the community and the needlework that they've done. And so what we have here is different groups done by different artists. And so we can examine just the stylistic variances between them and also what is so similar between all of them.
So it was fascinating, and she talked a little bit about her training. You know, if you're interested in a career like that, what path do you take? We also talked to one of the exhibit designers. They're starting to work on the 1918 exhibit. So we talked about World War I, and we talked about the Greatest Generation exhibit. We talked to the intern coordinator. Obviously, we would love to place more of our students there, so she took us kind of into how that process works, how to do a good application, which is really important. I mean, I think we'd actually like to take the students there if at all possible, but if not, we've at least taken them there in some sense via the webisode. So that's where serendipity was really nice. The other is we always had known we wanted to interview alumni as part of this, partly to spotlight different career paths people had taken. And so we had kind of a list of alumni. But as we talked to them, it became clear that not just the faculty were teaching this class, but the alumni, in some sense, are actually teaching at least the career, vocation, calling piece of the class. And then we'll talk to some students too, and they can help teach the class. So going back to that idea of building departmental culture and community, I think it's become even richer than we thought it could be because we're freed from the strictures of time and space to some extent. So let me just show you a brief clip of one interview we did with Annie Schoholm, who is, I think, class of '09, history social studies major, worked for Teach for America in Hartford, Connecticut for 2 years, and now is a middle school social studies teacher at Minnehaha Academy in Minneapolis. So I'll show you part of this.
My name is Annie Schoholm. I'm a teacher at Minnehaha Academy. I teach 6th and 7th grade, and I was a history major at Bethel University. I have a lot of teachers in my family, and so that was something I could always easily see myself doing. I love kids, and so that was always really natural. But also I had a high school AP American history teacher that was just an amazing teacher. He was the one who really taught me how to write, and I loved his class. We had amazing discussions. And so when I decided to major in history, it was always with the idea that I was going to be a teacher as well. I would say I am so thankful that I have the double major in history. I think it has helped me so much to be able to know what I'm talking about in the classroom, and I would recommend anyone who's majoring in social science education to either get a double major and along with that, take as many classes as possible in the content area. So take high-level econ, take political science, take a variety of geography courses and history courses that cover all throughout the world, not just one specific area, because in social studies you can end up teaching so many different areas. I would also say, while you are in class, engage in that class so much. Your professors have amazing ideas that you may end up using one day in your social studies classroom. Keep up with current events, ask questions, read The Economist, do anything you can, because that's what your life is going to be like as a social studies teacher. It's going to be constantly researching, constantly finding resources, and constantly making connections. So as
yeah, it's really been fun. We've done this in a variety of fashions for probably 3 years now, so we have a pretty good network of people we can talk to. You know, teaching social studies is not an unpredictable sort of outcome for a history major, but we've also this summer interviewed a corporate lawyer, a magazine editor, just talked to somebody who does marketing for a software company. We talked to somebody who teaches English in China who was back for a furlough, so we interviewed him at Keys Cafe. It's kind of loud, but I think it worked.
Librarian.
A librarian, the director of St. Scholastica's Library, went to Duluth. That was the reason we were going there in the first place, and lots of other paths. And so we talked about career, but I mean, I think hopefully the sense of it's not just what you're going to do, it's who you are came out as well. We always ask the alumni, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self, your first year, what advice would you give? What have you learned in the time since then? And that was, we actually pieced together those clips and showed it at Welcome Week for our students. This is a first kind of taste of this, and a way to start getting them some pieces early on in their development career. It's been great for lots of reasons. I'm really excited to actually get in and teach the class. It feels like I've been teaching this for a while now. It's been great because it feeds into so many other things we've been talking about. Alumni engagement. We have not been, no one has answered no to any request for an interview we've done, whether it's been for a department blog or for this series or for other series. They're always thrilled. I think they're a little tickled that we've actually wanted to talk to them and think their story is significant. But it's really deepened connections, I think, between faculty and our alumni. So I'm very excited to teach this, but I'm also excited that this might have applicability for other departments too. A lot of you have some sort of intro course or courses. I think there are pieces here that might be useful for you, and so we wanted to make sure to leave at least 12 minutes of Q&A. Sam will join me at this point. We thought if we both talked, we would bounce off each other so much we'd use up all the time. But we really want to hear from you. If you have an idea for something, if you have a question of how we did this, any other questions, let's turn it over to you all.
Did you do like consent letters or some sort of thing saying, what do you call those things?
We have media releases.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you call
Yeah,
it.
there's kind of a standard Bethel media release we use, using for various projects for like 3 years. I don't know if you outdated, but it's kind of general. We also interviewed a lawyer once who said, "Sure, I'll sign it. We can quash it in court later." Split it.
What are you doing for assessment in general, and then specifically on like the webinar, the TV series stuff? I guess the question is, how are you making sure that they're
There we go.
watching?
Okay, there's the practical
That's
application.
the better
That's honestly something I want to think a little bit more about. I imagine it'll tie in what the blogging assignment is for the week. And then, ideally, this is all to set up kind of whatever happens Monday night. So
why wouldn't they want to watch all these? But just in case.
No, you're right. Ideally, this is all part of the flow through the week, hopefully. And so how we have some accountability for that, I want to think about. But I imagine some sort of response reflection assignments. Beyond just kind of participation, it should be abundantly clear, because we'll talk about in the alumni interview or the faculty conversation in the Monday class. I guess the other thing is I've done a little bit of this with podcasting in a couple classes. But it sense overall students did it. They very rarely, once a month, something like they happen, they were making it, but for the most part, they buy into this, in my experience.
How does your time commitment in preparing a class like this with the technology compare to a time commitment to a more traditional class?
Wow, this one is odd because in a lot of ways teaching senior Sam for 10 years, I kind of feel like after a year with face to face, I want to change a few things up. But I don't know, we never measure how much time we spend on this. I would say probably literally. I mean, I think our sense generally for all these projects we do is the initial investment is pretty enormous. And then our idea is that we try to keep these modular, we try not to have specific time references. And I think our idea is we'll keep doing interviews and site visits each summer and then kind of rotate them in. So that initially you really have a lot of time to do it, and then it becomes easier if you plan well. A lot of time, and maybe you want to say more about this, is just like conversation.
Yeah.
That's actually why the road trip was great, because it gave us like 6 hours just to talk to it.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is the actual time spent recording stuff is minor, and at this point, the time doing the editing is minor, with the caveat that we've done a lot of that. So it's like, and part of keeping it modular is as we film things, I would try to that day go, because everything was pretty short. I'd try to go through and edit it right away, and then I would post it on a private YouTube link so we'd both be able to see it. So we have essentially dailies for this, and then in the spring we'll just put the pieces together. So these are a lot of puzzle pieces, and part of my job as we record is to be the evergreen police and just make sure we're not saying anything that's timestamped. So if we want to reuse it, we can. If we want to swap out an interview, swap out a discussion in a next semester, things like that, it's all built to be puzzle pieces we can move around.
And what Sam doesn't say is he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. It'd be a lot different if I had to do that piece as well. You know, this is not in Sam's load. He's not being paid past the gift certificate to a butcher shop that I bought him. It's just he's doing it because he enjoys it, because we like working well together. But
Well, it's departmental service. I mean, I think this is going to be a big thing for our department, and and it's also a chance to try some ideas out. So,
but I think there are other ways that we think about it, whether it's TAs or we keep talking about kind of internal internship programs. I mean, I think there are ways maybe professors don't have to do this, because I mean we've just done a lot of it. But I think the technical skill, there's a learning curve, but it's not.
yeah, there's nothing other than the Madman clip was a little crazy, but other than that, there's not a lot of time to finish work.
You'll do that on commission.
That's right.
So some of these, it looked like you had like 2 camera shots, it looked like you had a microphone, so this isn't stuff you just check out from the
It's
library.
all library. I mean, some of it is stuff we got on a grant, but everything we used is available at the desk.
And did you do 2 camera shots a lot?
Yeah, so when we did the interviews, I had one stationary camera that
Well,
had...
the conversation with the faculty about that.
Yeah. We did the conversation with faculty, but we had one camera that was the wide shot, and then I was on the other camera and would just go to the person who's speaking and would drop that shot in. So we could feel like we had multiple cameras, but it was just those 2. So that was pretty easy to edit too.
Yeah, for the rest of it, honestly, I like having Sam along, who's better at it. I could theoretically just do. I can just check out a camera, I can check out the recorder. I kind of did this at home anyway, except I forgot to plug in the recorder. That was wasted. But I mean, theoretically, I could actually do this. It's more fun to do it with Sam. But I'm not hugely capable in these areas, but I think I could probably do a decent job with it, given the equipment we've got here.
Yeah. So there's no super special. I mean, all the software I think is available in the computers in the library. So yeah, it's.
It does look nice now. One thing I forgot to say is we plan to also make this public in the spring too. I mean, we've got a department YouTube page we haven't used for a whole lot of things. We figure there's really no good reason not to just give this away as a departmental TV show. I think our alumni enjoy it. It's something we can point prospective students and families to. Or we could excerpt pieces out of it into a series of alumni interviews, faculty conversations, site visits, things like that. I mean, I guess my suggestion, my challenge to some of you is, at the very least, like start capturing things. If you've got speakers coming on for Like Be Built, if you have alumni coming back, like it took me 5 minutes to interview Tim at homecoming. It's kind of spontaneous. He was happy to do it. If you're doing site visits for anything, sometimes within business, but a lot of you do this, go ahead if they don't mind filming, and maybe unlike us, get permission first. Go ahead and capture something. Maybe it's just like background footage or something just later on, but you need to store it somehow. But that hard drive space isn't very expensive these days, or you can do it in the cloud.
I mean, one example of this is this January, Chris and I are teaching in Europe again. What we didn't do last year is film anything, so this year we're going to film one set of interstitials in Europe, but I think we're also just going to look for other things we can do for CWC and other, while we're there, we go to Chartres, why don't we film some stuff there, things like that. So I think I think looking for opportunities to do that, whether it's a location or a person.
It's another potential application I know you're excited about is the notion of if students can't study abroad, maybe you can send professors places.
Sure, yeah.
We actually finished early. That's never happened. Well, we're happy to stick around. I have a meeting in 5 minutes, but I think Sam can probably stick around for a little while. So if you did have some ideas or some questions, we'll hang out for a few minutes at least. But thanks for coming and listening to us. This is gonna go on.